What's up, everybody? It's Jrod, the filmmaker, former film major, frequent fighting gamer from Philadelphia, and happy Black History Month. This is the last episode of Black History Month, and like I said last week, it's a very special one. I've got a video that I have been working on for a while. Mentally, I just came up with the concept, put it off to the back of my mind, and then as I got more and more research and information to use in the video, I thought, you know what, this is the perfect time to actually drop it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The world of being a blurred is ever expanding, and if you don't know what a blurred is, it means black nerd. And right now, it's a great time to be a black nerd because there's a huge push for diversity and representation in the media. I mean, if you look at things like Black Panther, Black Lightning, and Watchmen, it's evident that black people will show up for anything that makes them feel accurately represented. However, we all know that it hasn't always been like this. There have always been black comic book fans, but comic books haven't always been fans of black people. And that's where we get into the uncaped heroes.
No capes!
Like Mr. Dwayne McDuffie, Dennis Cowan, Michael Davis, Derek Dingle, and those who founded Milestone Comics. Milestone was created in a response to the lack of black representation in comic books. And Milestone characters include Icon, Hardware, and Static. And this video is about Static and his TV show that he had in the DCAU, Static Shock. Now, personally, I grew up on this show, and since it featured a black superhero, it stands out among all of the Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, at the time, I didn't even realize how rare it was, but today, even today, shows like this are few and far between. A superhero show distributed by one of the major comic book companies that featured a black protagonist. I mean, yeah, even in 2020, that's kind of rare. And in my video about the streaming wars, I talked about how I had a trial of DC Universe so that I could watch old episodes of Static Shock. And watching those old episodes of Static Shock, it reminded me of something I've been thinking about for a few years. Why is the CW's Flash so similar to Static Shock? I mean, you probably never thought about it, but I have. A lot. Okay, the first time I actually thought about it was season 1, episode 1 of The Flash. So the inciting event of CW's The Flash is that the Star Labs particle accelerator explodes and spreads dark matter around Central City, turning some of the people into metahumans, including our hero, Barry Allen, aka The Flash. The inciting event of Static Shock is that there's a gang war in Dakota City, and police used an experimental tear gas to break it up. Unfortunately, the gas spread dark matter around the city, causing some of the people to turn into metahumans, including our hero, Virgil Hawkins, aka Static Shock. On both shows, we basically have the same situation. I mean, in The Flash, of course, there was an explosion of the particle accelerator, and in Static Shock, there was the tear gas. But either way, the tear gas event in Static Shock came to be known as the Big Bang, because it was the event that created all of these metahumans in the city. Now, the particle accelerator explosion was an explosion. And if you don't know what a particle accelerator does, it tries to mimic the events of the Big Bang and record what happens to certain particles. So in both shows, we have this Big Bang, this metaphor for creation of humans and the Earth, but instead of creating humans, they created metahumans. And whether you're talking about metahumans or bang babies, we're talking about superheroes, okay? Those are just fancy nicknames for superheroes. So both of these events created the superheroes and the supervillains of their respective worlds. And this was the first thing that got me thinking about this idea, but of course, this alone wasn't enough for me to make an entire video about. So I just kept it in the back of my mind. I kept watching the shows. And of course, similarities kept occurring. So the next similarity comes in the sidekick. And I put sidekick in quotations because both of these characters could be seen more like partners. But for this one, I'm going to have you guys guess which show I'm talking about. So here's the description. Our hero has a good friend who is great with machines. After the first event that gave everyone the powers, our hero's friend discovers that he is a late bloomer metahuman whose powers were waiting to manifest. Now, what show do you think that is? I have a poll above, so you think it's The Flash, vote for that. If you think it's Static, vote for that. And I'll give you guys a couple minutes before I tell you the answer. The answer is it's both shows, okay? Both shows have the same exact plot line. So on Static, we have Rich Foley, aka Gear, Static's partner, tech designer, and best friend. On The Flash, we have Cisco Ramon, who works at Star Labs, and he's the Flash's man in the chair, suit designer, and best friend. And these two characters, although they have very different powers, they manifested the exact same way. Cisco went through his arc of becoming Vibe. I got deja vu. I knew I had seen this before, but I couldn't exactly tell from where until I could. From Rich Foley's story as Gear. Alright, and now we have one more similarity. This one's a bit smaller, and also it's better that I show you, and then I'll explain it afterwards. So go ahead, take a look.
I bet it's been a while since you felt your own mortality, but my powers, like yours, work on a cellular level. Allow me to demonstrate.
Hey, this ain't no way to treat a brother. Don't hand me that brother stuff. You played me, Ivan.
So on The Flash, we have Bloodwork fighting Elongated Man, and on Static, we have Ebon fighting Rubber Band Man. Now, Ebon and Bloodwork have different powers, but the way Bloodwork uses his powers in these few episodes were exactly the same way that Ebon would use his. I mean, getting around faster, stretching your limbs, teleporting. It was basically all the same things. And Elongated Man and Rubber Band Man have the exact same powers. There's not even any difference. So the fact that not only these two characters exist, they have the same proximity to our hero, but this fight scene is almost like it's taken directly out of Static Shock. I'm not saying that The Flash is stealing any of their ideas from Static Shock or from Dwayne McDuffie. I'm just saying that there are so many similarities that by now there should have been some homage paid to Static Shock and those ideas that came from it. Eventually, Milestone Media made a deal with DC Comics to publish and distribute their comics. Dwayne McDuffie also went to work on other shows like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, as well as Teen Titans, and DC animated films like Justice League Doom, Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, All-Star Superman, and even some shows outside of DC like Ben 10 and What's New Scooby-Doo. It's definitely possible that some of the people who work on The Flash now have worked with Dwayne McDuffie on one of these shows in the past. And even if that's not the case, it's definitely possible that some of the people who work on Flash were inspired by Dwayne McDuffie and some of the ideas that he put forth. The real problem is not that Static Shock and Flash are similar. The problem is that Static Shock is barely around in our modern superhero pantheon. We blurs have so many characters to look at for representation, and it would be nice to have one of the first iconic black characters. And no, I'm not talking about Icon, I'm talking about Static still, okay? I mean, it's just one thing that if these ideas can move on from one character to another, a lot of us feel like Static will be forgotten and he'll just be one of those characters who gets pushed off and his ideas get recycled and given to someone else. And we definitely don't want to have that happen. So right now we do have the Young Justice version of Static Shock. It is like the only version of Static Shock that we have on TV right now. But I want to shout it out because it's a great version of Static Shock. It has a super sick origin story with a brand new team of the Star Labs Runaways. And the way they handle the character I think is great. Also, potentially teaming him up with Black Lightning as his mentor. That's one of the coolest ideas that I have ever heard. Two iconic black superheroes that are very similar actually coming and working together after, I don't know what, 20, 30 years of these characters existing together. But let's just say that in this newest season of Young Justice Outsiders, Static's role has gone from small to almost non-existent. And the one episode that we got of all 25 episodes this season where Static and Black Lightning were together, they didn't say a single word to each other. I thought I was being trolled because I've been waiting 20 to 30 years for this moment, and we finally get it, and all we get is a fist bump. I literally had to go and rewatch the episode because I'm like, no, there's no way that they didn't say anything to each other. But yeah, they didn't say anything to each other, which is kind of a smack in the face. I was definitely heated. So Static's status at DC is not as clear-cut as we want it to be. But I think it's safe to say that the millions of Static fans that exist out there, we're in withdrawal. We want to see new stories with Static Shock, whether they be animated, live action, whether you put him on The Flash, Black Lightning, in the crossovers. We would love to see Static in any of these forms. I mean, through this video, we can see how influential Static has been to current DC shows. So let's give Virgil and Static the appreciation that he deserves, because unfortunately, we can't give Dwayne McDuffie his flowers right now. Sadly, he passed away in 2011 at the age of 49. So I think we have an obligation to celebrate the characters that he created for us. Characters that made us feel seen and made us feel like we're the heroes of our own story. So for my final episode of Black History Month, I want to show my appreciation for Dwayne McDuffie, Milestone Media, and everyone there, and to Static and the Hawkins family. So yeah, that's going to be about it for this video. Like I said, it's been something I've been thinking about for years now. I'm so happy I finally got it down on paper, and I'm really proud with what I came up with. So that's going to be it, you guys. Final episode of Black History Month. But don't worry, we still have at least one more month of weekly uploads. And next month is going to be jam-packed with videos and a lot of Mortal Kombat 11 videos. We got Spawn coming. So we're going to get another beautiful black character in Mortal Kombat that I'm going to have to main up. So we'll get the Spawn reveal reaction. We'll get some Spawn gameplay, as well as maybe a part 3 to the Fatality reaction now that we have a full fighter pack of new characters to react to. So that's going to be it for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. Happy Black History Month, and rest in peace to Dwayne McDuffie. Oh yeah, one final thing that I wanted to say. When I was doing my research, I remember talking about the Static's new origin in Young Justice and the Young Justice, or the Star Labs Runaways. So we have characters like Static and like Tai Longshadow, well, along with some newer characters that I wasn't familiar with. And this origin was so fun and so fresh, but it reminded me of an episode of Justice League Unlimited where we had this brand new team of superheroes who were coming in and stealing the spotlight from the Justice League. Turns out that they were led by Lex Luthor, and it had some analogs to old characters like Tai Longshadow, like the Wonder Twins, and yeah, so it was just so cool. And when I went and researched that episode, it was written by Dwayne McDuffie. So even the new Static origin that we have in Young Justice, it all goes back to Dwayne McDuffie. So I just want to say, we appreciate him so much for these stories, and give this man his credit because it's due. It's long overdue, and I want to see Static in something. So yeah, that's it. Peace out again, guys.